I need to tell you something that has been keeping me awake at night for the past 72 hours, and I'm not entirely sure how much time we have left to discuss it publicly. Before we begin, I need you to do something for me right now. Comment your city name below and tell me if you have noticed anything unusual in the night sky recently. Strange lights, atmospheric disturbances, anything that felt wrong or out of place. NASA is quietly collecting this data, and they need to know precisely where these phenomena are being seen. What I'm about to share may change the way you see humanity's place in the universe forever. My name is Michio Kaku, and for over 4 decades, I have dedicated my life to understanding the fundamental laws that govern our cosmos. I have stood before blackboards filled with complex equations that describe the birth of stars, the death of galaxies, and the very fabric of space-time itself. I have always believed that science would provide us with answers. Rational, measurable, predictable answers. But 3 weeks ago, something happened that has shaken that belief to its absolute core. It began with an object we cataloged as 3I Atlas, an interstellar visitor, a comet from beyond our solar system, traveling through the cold void between stars for millions, perhaps billions of years before entering our cosmic neighborhood. At first, it seemed unremarkable in the grand catalog of celestial wanderers. We have detected interstellar objects before: Oumuamua in 2017, Borisov in 2019. These visitors from other star systems pass through our solar system like silent ships in the night, and we wave at them with our telescopes, measuring their trajectories, analyzing their composition, and then watching them disappear back into the infinite darkness. But 3I Atlas was different. On November 14th, at approximately 3:47 a.m. Universal Time, 3I Atlas passed within 0.6 astronomical units of Earth. That is roughly 90 million kilometers closer than Venus at certain points in its orbit. For a cosmic object, that is remarkably close. But proximity alone was not what concerned us. What concerned us was what happened to Earth's magnetic field at the exact moment of its closest approach. The magnetosphere, that invisible shield generated by our planet's molten iron core, the protective bubble that has safeguarded life on Earth for billions of years from the lethal radiation of space, experienced something we have never documented before. A magnetic field line collapsed. Not weakened, not fluctuated, but collapsed entirely. For 17 agonizing minutes, a section of Earth's protective magnetic field simply ceased to exist. Let me be clear about what this means. Earth's magnetic field is not a fragile thing. It is a product of dynamo theory, generated by the churning of electrically conductive material deep within our planet's outer core. It extends tens of thousands of kilometers into space. It has survived asteroid impacts, solar superstorms, and cosmic ray bombardments that would have sterilized our planet's surface, if not for this shield. And yet, in the presence of 3I Atlas, it failed completely. The first reports came from the Swarm satellite constellation operated by the European Space Agency. These satellites measure magnetic field strength with extraordinary precision, mapping every fluctuation, every subtle shift in the magnetosphere structure. At 3:47 a.m., their instruments registered an anomaly so profound that scientists initially believed it was a massive system malfunction. The data showed a field line, a specific channel of magnetic flux extending from Earth's north magnetic pole toward the south, simply vanishing from the readings. Then another, then another. Within minutes, a corridor approximately 200 kilometers wide had opened in our planet's magnetic shield, directly in the path of 3I Atlas. I received the first call at 4:15 a.m. I remember the voice on the other end, a colleague from NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, someone I have known for 20 years, someone who has witnessed solar flares, gamma-ray bursts, and magnetar eruptions without losing his composure, and his voice was trembling. "Michio," he said, "we need you to look at something. We need you to tell us we are reading this wrong." But we were not reading it wrong. What happened next defies every model we have of how celestial bodies interact with planetary magnetic fields. Comets, even interstellar ones, do not possess the electromagnetic properties necessary to influence a planet's magnetosphere in such a dramatic fashion. They are chunks of ice, rock, and frozen gases. dirty snowballs, as Carl Sagan once called them. They do not carry enough charge, enough magnetic field strength, or enough energy to punch a hole through Earth's protective shield. And yet 3I Atlas did exactly that. As I examined the data throughout that morning, something else emerged from the numbers, something that made my hands shake as I adjusted the parameters of my analysis. The collapse was not random, it was geometric. The field lines did not simply disappear in a chaotic, unpredictable pattern. They collapsed in a sequence, one after another, creating a corridor that aligned perfectly with 3I Atlas's trajectory. It was as if the magnetosphere was being opened deliberately, like a door responding to a key. Then the signal stopped at 4:04 a.m., exactly 17 minutes after the collapse began. Earth's magnetic field snapped back into place. The field lines regenerated with such sudden force that satellites detected electromagnetic pulses equivalent to a moderate solar storm. But the sun was quiet that night. There was no solar activity that could account for this regeneration. The magnetosphere had healed itself, or something had allowed it to heal. I sat in my office as dawn broke over New York City, surrounded by printouts of satellite data, spectroscopic analyses, and trajectory calculations. And I realized something that has haunted me ever since. We were not observing a natural phenomenon. We were observing a technology. The implications are staggering, and I need you to understand them with absolute clarity. If 3I Atlas possessed the capability to manipulate Earth's magnetic field, then it was not simply a comet. It was a probe, a vessel, perhaps even a message. And if it could control our magnetosphere with such precision, then whoever or whatever sent it understands physics at a level that makes our greatest scientific achievements look like cave paintings. I have spent my entire career studying string theory, M-theory, the possibility of parallel universes and higher dimensions beyond the four we perceive. I have written books about civilizations that might harness the energy of entire stars, Type 2 and Type 3 civilizations on the Kardashev scale that could manipulate matter and energy on galactic scales. These were always theoretical exercises, thought experiments to help us understand the ultimate limits of physical law. But now, confronted with evidence of technology that can reach across interstellar space and manipulate a planet's fundamental electromagnetic structure, theory has become reality. And the reality is terrifying. Because here is what we discovered when we analyzed the composition of 3I Atlas using spectroscopic data from ground-based observatories and the James Webb Space Telescope. The object's outer layers contain elements that shouldn't exist in nature. Isotope ratios that do not match anything we have seen in our solar system or in meteorite samples from other star systems. There are traces of synthetic compounds, materials that could only be created through industrial processes, through deliberate engineering. 3I Atlas was built and it was sent here. NASA has known this for 2 weeks. They have been in emergency sessions with the Department of Defense, with intelligence agencies, with world governments. The public has not been told because they do not know what to say. How do you announce to 8 billion people that an extraterrestrial intelligence has demonstrated the capability to disable our planet's primary defense against cosmic radiation? How do you explain that we are, for the first time in human history, confronted with evidence of a civilization so advanced that they can reach across light years of empty space and touch us? The night after I understood what we were dealing with, I couldn't sleep. I stood on my balcony looking up at the stars, and I thought about everything humanity has accomplished. We have split the atom, we have decoded DNA, we have sent our machines to every planet in the solar system and beyond. We have built particle accelerators to recreate the conditions of the Big Bang. We have developed artificial intelligence that can process information faster than the human brain. We thought we were approaching godhood, or at least approaching an understanding of the universe's deepest secrets. But 3I Atlas reminded us that we are children. We are infants taking our first steps in a cosmos that is older, stranger, and more populated than we ever imagined. And here is what keeps me awake now. This was not first contact. This was a demonstration. This was someone somewhere in the galaxy showing us what they can do. They collapsed our magnetic field for 17 minutes and then allowed it to recover. They did not destroy it. They did not leave it damaged. They simply showed us that they could. Why? Is this a warning, a greeting, a test? Are we being evaluated, measured against some cosmic standard to determine if we are ready for contact or if we are too dangerous to allow into the galactic community? The physicist in me wants to believe this is a peaceful overture, a message from an advanced civilization reaching out across the void to say, we see you, we know you are here. But the human in me, the part that has studied history and understands how civilizations interact when there is a vast technological disparity, knows that first contact is rarely gentle. There is something else in the data that NASA hasn't released publicly, something I have only seen because of my security clearance and my connections within the space science community. During those 17 minutes when the magnetic field line was collapsed, multiple ground-based radio observatories detected an extremely low-frequency signal emanating from the region of space where 3I Atlas was located. The signal was coherent, structured, clearly artificial. It was not random cosmic noise. It was information. Teams at SETI, at the Very Large Array in New Mexico, at Arecibo's successor facilities, they are all working around the clock to decode this transmission. But here is the problem. It is not encoded in any mathematical or linguistic framework we understand. It is not binary. It is not based on prime numbers or fundamental constants like the speed of light or Planck's constant. It is something else entirely. Something that suggests a completely different approach to information theory and communication, unless we understand consciousness itself. There is a hypothesis circulating among a small group of theoretical physicists and neuroscientists that I have been consulting with, a hypothesis so radical that it would have been dismissed as pseudoscience just a month ago. What if the signal from 3I Atlas was not meant to be decoded by our instruments? What if it was meant to be perceived directly by conscious minds? Throughout history, there have been reports, thousands of them across every culture and civilization, of people experiencing what they describe as contact, as messages from the cosmos, as sudden insights that seem to come from outside themselves. We have always dismissed these as hallucinations, as religious experiences, as the misfiring of neurons in oxygen-deprived brains. But what if we were wrong? What if consciousness itself is a receiver, a quantum antenna capable of detecting signals that our physical instruments cannot measure? The night of November 14th, during those 17 minutes, over 40,000 people around the world reported unusual experiences, vivid dreams of geometric patterns, sudden feelings of overwhelming unity with the universe, visions of distant worlds and alien skies. We know this because they posted about it on social media, because they called emergency services because they couldn't understand what was happening to them. The medical community dismissed it as mass hysteria, as the psychological effects of solar activity that wasn't actually occurring. But I have looked at the data. I have mapped the reports geographically. And every single person who experienced these phenomena was located within the corridor where Earth's magnetic field had collapsed, directly beneath the path of 3I Atlas. That was the moment I realized we were no longer alone. Not in the sense that extraterrestrial life exists somewhere out there in the infinite cosmos. I have always believed that was statistically inevitable. But alone in the sense that we are now known. We are now visible. We are now part of something vastly larger than ourselves, and we are not ready. I have given lectures at universities around the world about the possibility of contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. I have always approached it as a thought experiment, a fascinating question for humanity to ponder. Would they be friendly, hostile, indifferent? Would they even recognize us as intelligent beings? Or would we be to them what ants are to us? Barely worth noticing as we go about our incomprehensible activities. But now that contact appears to be happening, now that we have evidence of technology and intention and communication, all those theoretical discussions feel inadequate. Because the reality is that we have no protocol for this. We have no unified government that can speak for humanity. We have no consensus on our values, our goals, our worthiness, to join a galactic community, if such a thing exists. We are a fractured species, still killing each other over tribal differences, still destroying the only habitable planet we know of, still creating weapons that could render our own world uninhabitable. What would an advanced civilization think of us? What would they see when they look at Earth? Would they see a promising young species taking its first steps toward cosmic maturity? Or would they see a dangerous, self-destructive infestation that needs to be contained? There is a concept in astrobiology called the galactic quarantine hypothesis. It suggests that advanced civilizations might deliberately avoid contact with younger species, not out of altruism or a prime directive like a non-interference policy, but because young civilizations are dangerous. We are unpredictable. We are violent. We have only had nuclear weapons for 80 years, and we have come close to using them to extinguish ourselves multiple times. We are developing artificial intelligence that might surpass human cognition within decades, and we have no idea how to control it. We are changing our planet's climate at a pace that rivals major extinction events in Earth's geological history. From the perspective of an advanced civilization, we might look like a virus, something to be isolated until we either mature or destroy ourselves. And perhaps that is what 3I Atlas was doing. Perhaps the 17-minute collapse of our magnetic field wasn't a demonstration of power. Perhaps it was the activation of a barrier, a cosmic fence being erected around our solar system. Perhaps we have just been placed under galactic quarantine and we do not even realize it yet. I find myself thinking about the Fermi paradox, the question of why, if the universe is so vast and so old, we haven't detected any signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. Enrico Fermi asked this question in 1950. Where is everybody? There should be millions of civilizations out there. Some of them should be billions of years more advanced than us. They should be everywhere, leaving traces of their existence across the galaxy. And yet, until now, we have heard nothing but silence. Maybe the silence wasn't an absence. Maybe it was a choice. Maybe advanced civilizations have been watching us all along, waiting to see what we would become. And maybe 3I Atlas is their announcement that the waiting period is over. For better or worse, we have reached a threshold, crossed some invisible line that has triggered a response from those who have been watching. The data from 3I Atlas is still being analyzed. There are teams working on it at every major space agency on the planet. NASA, ESA, Roscosmos, CNSA, ISRO, all sharing information in unprecedented cooperation because they understand that this transcends national boundaries. Whatever we are dealing with, it is a human problem, a species-level event that will define our future in ways we are only beginning to comprehend. But there are things they are not telling the public, things I probably shouldn't be sharing, but feel compelled to because I believe humanity deserves to know the truth. The trajectory of 3I Atlas, after its close approach to Earth, did not continue on the path we predicted. It changed course, not dramatically, not in a way that violates physics, but precisely, deliberately, using what appears to be a gravitational manipulation technology that we can observe but cannot explain. It adjusted its trajectory to bring it closer to Jupiter, and our instruments are tracking it as it approaches the giant planet. Why Jupiter? What is there that interests whoever sent 3I Atlas? Is it the immense magnetic field, thousands of times stronger than Earth's? Is it the possibility of life in the subsurface oceans of Europa or Ganymede? Or is there something at Jupiter that we haven't discovered yet, something that an advanced civilization wants us to notice? I think about my grandchildren, about the world they are going to inherit, and I realize that everything has changed. The universe we thought we understood, the cosmic solitude we assumed was our condition, the slow march of scientific progress toward complete understanding, all of that has been shattered by a visitor from the stars that demonstrated abilities we cannot replicate and left us with questions we may never answer. And perhaps that is the point. Perhaps the message from 3I Atlas isn't in the signal we detected or the technology we observed. Perhaps the message is in the questions themselves. Perhaps we are being forced to confront the limits of our knowledge, the boundaries of our understanding, and the humbling reality that we are not the pinnacle of intelligence in the cosmos. I have devoted my life to understanding the universe through mathematics and physics, through equations that describe reality with elegant precision. But standing beneath the stars now, knowing that something out there is watching us, has touched our world and demonstrated power that makes our greatest achievements seem primitive. I feel something I have rarely experienced in my scientific career. I feel wonder, and I feel fear, and I feel, for the first time in my life, truly uncertain about humanity's future. Follow this channel as we continue decoding the universe's final warnings, as we track the path of 3I Atlas through our solar system, and as we attempt to understand what comes next for our species. Because whatever is happening, it is only beginning. The question I keep returning to, the one that haunts me as I analyze data and review telescope observations and consult with colleagues who are as terrified and amazed as I am, is this. Are we witnessing first contact, or are we witnessing our final exam as a species? Has an advanced civilization reached out to welcome us into the cosmic community, or have they reached out to determine whether we deserve to survive at all? What do you think is out there watching us from the darkness between stars? What would you say if you could send a message back to whoever sent 3I Atlas? Are we ready for what comes next, or are we children playing with forces we cannot comprehend? Comment below. Tell me where you are. Tell me what you have seen, because I believe more than ever that the answers we are looking for might not come from our telescopes and satellites and equations. They might come from you, from the collective consciousness of humanity. As we stand together on the edge of the greatest transformation our species has ever faced, the universe is speaking. The question is whether we are ready to listen.